rumor monger like you. They said journalists are rumor mongers. Anyhow, we want to welcome the media for joining us for this brief interaction. This morning we held a joint opposition caucus meeting to discuss bills that are being processed by Parliament and our take on a couple of things and the entire process. There's two bills which are problematic, one more problematic than the other. The first being the Political Parties and Organizations Amendment Bill, where they are seeking to force political parties to sit and have negotiations and discussions and that kind of thing. It's problematic. It's hinged on the funding that political parties that have representation in Parliament get, that's passed by Parliament. And so the mover of the bill, or whoever sent her to move that bill, to propose and promote this bill, is saying parties that are not part of the National Consultative Forum will not receive funding that is passed by Parliament. That's interesting because National Consultative Forum is a creature of law. I know for a fact that the target has been, especially NUP, that decided to stay away from iPod. And we did give our reasons, but NUP is part of the National Consultative Forum. In fact, we are the vice chairs of the National Consultative Forum because legally the party in government chairs, then the leading opposition party seconds and nominates the vice chairperson. And previously, the vice chairperson we had nominated as a party was Honorable Jolly Mugisha. When she passed on, we nominated Councillor Benjamin Katana, who is the vice chairperson of the National Consultative Forum. So we are full members. The new twist they are trying to introduce therein is to say now let iPod be introduced as an element, more like a department within the National Consultative Forum. The challenge with that is that even legally it's problematic. iPod is an NGO. It's a loose club of willing people. The same way people can choose to be part of whichever club. There are various clubs in this country. You don't force people to be part of a club. Those who are willing can be part of it. But that which is provided for in law, National Consultative Forum, with all its issues and challenges, we are there. Yeah? What we have always said and what we think that government needs to focus on, as opposed to trying to force parties, you sit, let's talk by force and so on, you show goodwill by doing what is right. Our concern has always been the persecution. Stop persecuting us as leaders in the opposition and our supporters. Release all political prisoners. Let us as political parties, all the different political parties, especially those in the opposition, let them be able to go out there, do mobilization the same way NRM does and so on. That way, you just might entice us to say, okay, you want us to sit on a round table, let's sit. Because there's goodwill out there. But it doesn't make sense for you to say, let's sit, talk, have a cup of tea, take pictures and so on. But tomorrow when we say we are going to Arua for mobilization activity, police and the military will be waiting for us to foil our activities. So those are the things that need to be worked on. Otherwise, don't think you can force people to say, you sit in this room and talk by force. By the way, you could even force them to enter the room. But you're not going to force them to speak, to have genuine negotiations. That cannot be forced. So those who think that these things can be done by law are misguided. You can get a donkey, carry it by force to a well and take it to the well. But you will not force that donkey to drink water. It has got to open its mouth and drink the water. That's what needs to be addressed. The people of Uganda have never said no to a discussion about our country. In fact, we have always wanted that. But what kind of discussion do you want to have about our country? A discussion about good governance. A discussion about transition. You cannot have a leader for 40 years and it gets to be okay, who keeps tinkering with the constitution, amending it at every turn so as to keep in power. No. And So that's our major take on that, but also the idea that this particular bill, Political Parties and Organizations Amendment Bill and the UPDF Amendment Bill, are being processed hastily, in a hurried manner. This is unprecedented, because the bill gets to be read for the first time today, and it is sent to the committee. And then you see notices from Parliament and the committee being received by stakeholders saying, we are inviting you to come and give your views about this bill at 9 a.m. But the invitation letter is reaching the office at 8 a.m. And you're saying you want them to come 1 hour later. And you're saying all the input from different stakeholders is closing that very day. That's not consultation, that's envisaged under the law. So there has not been effective consultation on these bills, and that's problematic. And we are challenging that. I raised this matter on the floor of Parliament, and the Speaker said, don't worry, we are going to avail more time. But she was telling a lie, because over the weekend, the committee has been meeting to write a report. That means consultations from different stakeholders ended. This is unacceptable. Our other concerns with the UPDF Amendment Bill is that the loyalty of the military courts is not to the Constitution, but to commands from the Chief of Defense Forces, from the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, from the High Command, and so on and so forth. That's where the military courts get to base their loyalty. Their loyalty is not to the Constitution. It is to commands. And that's what makes them very problematic. The Supreme Court was very clear. It said military courts are not envisaged as these ordinary courts. No. The Supreme Court said military courts can and should exist, but to deal with disciplinary issues that arise within the military. That if there's a fellow who doesn't like saluting his superiors, this one is always coming late to work. This one, whenever they're given assignments, they don't execute them, and so on and so forth. That those get to be dealt with internally. Just like any other company, even private ones, they've got disciplinary mechanisms, disciplinary committees, and so on, for internal issues. But for any criminal matter, all those have got to be handled by the civilian courts. The law says the High Court of Uganda has got unlimited jurisdiction. And the Supreme Court made it very clear. What I see them trying to clutch onto, saying, well, the Supreme Court said, except in peculiar circumstances that are unavoidable. What are those peculiar circumstances? For any offense that is not provided for to be handled by civilian courts. Those are the peculiar circumstances that can be talked about. But if it is murder, if you're saying a military man has used his gun and killed people, that's murder. It's triable by the High Court. Take him to the High Court, not to the military courts. And that's why we find trouble with what our colleagues are trying to do. Also, these military courts do not meet the threshold of a fair trial before an independent and impartial court that's provided for in Article 28(1) and 126 of our country's constitution. These military courts, they do not guarantee that, because the trial is not fair. It's not impartial. The biggest winners from the ruling of the Supreme Court actually were soldiers, because many of them have for a long time been persecuted by the military courts. When you annoy your boss for whatever reason, he will send you to the court-martial, and you have no recourse anywhere, because for them they cannot even complain. At least we, the politicians, we can talk about our colleagues who are being held by the military court, the Machetes, the Asin Kalanzis, and so on. But no one even talks about the numerous military persons that have been tried and sentenced by the military court, and they're there suffering because of persecution. And so we are saying, as we are pushing back against this, soldiers, you need to stand up and be counted. Because this ruling of the Supreme Court was good for you as well. And that's why we are saying this should not just be a matter of the opposition. It should be a matter for all of us in the country, for us to be concerned. Finally, maybe second to finally, we told you about the 100 million shilling saga.
Yeah.
Of course, when we talked about this, you saw some people running quickly saying that is street talk. Those are rumors. Those opposition people, they want to make Parliament look bad. Some even promised to take me to court and other colleagues here. Others said I should apologize together with my colleagues, that we should apologize for saying bad things about our colleagues in Parliament. But with time, the truth did come out. And all those who were making threats went mute. We told you that this 100 million shilling saga, 50 million of that 100 million was to appreciate them for having passed the problematic coffee bill. And the other 50 is to oil them so that they can smoothly pass the UPDF amendment bill. And as you can see, they are rushing it without applying reason, disregarding all manner of laws, no consultation, because money was given. So this thing has to be done very quickly. And that's why they are doing what they are doing. We hope the people of Uganda are watching and are alert. Finally, there has been calls from different sections of the public saying that as the opposition, we should stay away from the sitting tomorrow, which is going to consider these problematic bills. And the reasoning by those who vouch for that view has been that when we attend, we shall be legitimizing the process. Some have even said that when we don't attend, they will not be able to pass these bills, which is actually not true, because the House can continue and process even without us. We, in our meeting this morning, have appreciated all those different concerns, which are out of frustration, because the people of Uganda are frustrated. They want better, they want change, they are tired of oppression. And so it is out of frustration that they are saying, maybe this is what might work. When the sober MPs stay out of the House, when this bill is being passed. That's the frustration that we hear. But we have agreed this morning as the Joint Opposition Caucus that while we do hear all those different views, it's important that we use the platform that we do have, the legally provided for platform that we do have, to push back. Is it going to be easy? Certainly not. But it's a platform that we must be able to use, that we get to be on record. It's important. It doesn't necessarily mean that we shall win. We could win, by the way, but it's not guaranteed. But it's important that we get to have our say on record, so that tomorrow we even have a basis for challenging whatever we would like to challenge. If we choose to go to court, for example, assuming we choose to go to court, because there's several grounds anyway that we can rely on, we shall need a basis, having been present, having had our say on record, and then you use that to challenge, whether it be in court or whatever else. But also importantly, we should not, even with all the challenges that are thrown at us, we should not give up easily. And we'd like to appreciate the people of Uganda who are very resilient. They have been boxed in a corner, they have been persecuted, but they don't stop. And we encourage them to keep fighting. You've heard some people saying, you who talk on Twitter, on social media and so on, when you talk, what value does it add? We think that it adds value, and that's why we encourage Ugandans, don't keep quiet. No one should tell you don't use that platform, that when you speak on social media, nothing changes. No, it adds value in the grand scheme of things. So don't stop tweeting, don't stop speaking on social media, use those platforms. And it's the same thing we are saying as members of Parliament, let's use the platform that we have also to push back. No one should take away any platform that is available to us, whether it be to expose, to be on record, to talk about these ills, to push back. Let's use them. So all the platforms that we have, let's use them. That's the resolution we've taken in our meeting today. And we're encouraging Ugandans, you might not be a member of Parliament, so your voice might not be captured on the Hansard. But when you talk about these issues on Twitter, on Facebook, whether it be through a text, whether it be through a video, an audio, and so on, it adds value. So let's not stop. Let's all use those platforms. And for members of parliament, you have beyond just your social media platform. You have this platform in the House. And so we are saying, tomorrow, we are going to use that platform. Good enough, the points of law that we have on our side are very clear. Like we did say during the passage of the coffee bill, we said we shall push back. And we said we shall not move out. If they want, they can move us out. And that's what they did during the coffee bill. You remember? They switched off the lights. They first moved you journalists out. And then they came for us. We said that they can do. But we shall not make it easy for them and move ourselves out. So even in this regard, we are saying we shall be present because our people elected us and they expect us to speak out. Our people know that we have fewer numbers, but they want to hear those few voices speak out loudly. And that's what we are going to do. So we are not going to move out.
Yeah.
If they want, they can move us out. They have done that before.
Oh.
They can deploy their SFC and so on, and then they move us out by force. That's really within their hands. But on our end, we are going to use the law, the rules, and we are going to use our space and our platform to speak out so that the voice of the minority gets to be very loud. I thank you.
Wow. What a presentation.
Bannamawulire abasinga temunnayiga Lunyankole, so sigenda kwogera Lunyankole. Ate tuli mu boardroom ya leader of opposition, tuli mu basement. Ebintu bino bisesa naye nga ate bya nnaku. Tubayise wano olwaleero nga bannamawulire okwogera ku nsonga ez'enjawulo. Amakya ga leero tubadde ne joint opposition caucus meeting y'ababaka ba parliament abali ku ludda oluvuganya wano mu parliament, ne tuwayamu ku nsonga ez'enjawulo okusingira ddala ebbago ly'etteeka eriri mu parliament. Actually gali abiri tulaba agasinga okubeera n'obuzibu. Okusookera ddala Political Parties and Organizations Amendment Bill. Ebbago eryo baalireeta, eyalireeta munnange sinalirye Honorable Nakut Faith, baamukwata bukwasi nti kakati ng'oba otambuza kino. Mujjukira abaali balina okuleeta etteeka lino Honorable Okiroro Bosco ne Honorable Basaalirwa be baali ne ku order paper ne wali ku lasti oba ne bakivubuukamu oba ne bakitya saategeera bulungi, naye twabuuza nti ate kakati abali ku order paper nga ate si be balireese. Anyway, ne bafunayo awo Honorable Nakut ne bakimwambaza ng'era olaba ate magana nga tabitegeera na bulungi kubanga teryali bbago lye. Ebbago lino obuzibu obusinga okubeera mu ddyo balowooza nti bayinza okukaka ebibiina by'ebyobufuzi. Tutuulaawo tuwayemuko tunyemuko kacaayi ku mpaka. Ekyo tekisoboka. Already tuli members aba National Consultative Forum kubanga bo bali batagetinga NUP kubanga ffe twagamba iPod tetujja gigenda mu Mwai Museveni agikozesa okulaga ensi yonna nti ye atuula n'abamuvuganya ne banywamuko kacaayi ne bawayamuko nyo olufuluma meeting eyo mujja genda alwo okutegeka omukolo babakubitiya gaasi n'ebirala. Kakati zino enteeseganya ziba zaaki? Ziba za kubuzaabuza, ziba za kuwuddiisa. So kati already tuli members aba National Consultative Forum. So kati abakitadde mu tteeka nti yes, ebibiina ebiri mu parliament okufuna sente ziyisibwa parliament bina kubeera bamemba ba National Consultative Forum. Already tugirimu, in fact ffe bamyuka nga NUP tteeka ligamba nti ekibiina ekiri mu buyinza be bakubiriza era be basecondinga chairperson. Ekibiina ekiri ku ludda oluvuganya ekirina ababaka abangi kyekireeta vice chairperson, era ffe abateekayo vice chairperson. Yasooka yali Mama Jolly Mugisha, yafa bambi ne tuteekayo Council Benjamin Katana era kyali akubiriza enkiiko. Naye kati baleesemu ango ya iPod nti iPod nayo ebeere part of National Consultative Forum. Ekyo nno kimenya amateeka kubanga iPod eringa NGO teri mu mateeka. Bino ebitongole by'obwannakyewa NGOs tuyinza gamba nti kakati okitadde mu teeka buli omu alina okukibeeramu. Ebanga club, social club, tuyinza kaka bantu nti kakati mwenna mbeeremu eno social club. Nedda, abaagala okugibeeramu bagibeeremu, abatayagala ddembe lyabwe. Naye National Consultative Forum yo tuli ba member era tewali kitugaana kubanga eri mateeka kyetuze tugamba gavumenti nti bannayuganda actually baali agadde okwogera ku ggwanga lyabwe naye nga biki byetwogerako kubanga bannayuganda baliisibwa akakanja tebalina mwaganya kuwagira kye baagala kuwagira gwe basanga ayambadde t-shirt emmyufu nga bamukwata bamutwala mu kooti y'amagye babatwala eyo mu zi basement simanya kubayigiriza lunyankole n'ebirala ebitategeerekeka kaka toyinza teekawo mbeera eyo ate n'ogamba bannaye mujje tunywemuko kacaayi tuwayemuko ffe twabagamba oba mwagala bannayuganda bakkirize nti kale mwagala kuteesa ku ggwanga lyabwe na ngeri ki gye lifugibwamu obukulembeze bunaakyuka butya musooke mukole ebyangu nnyo mutaabasibe political prisoners bateebwe ebibiina ebyenjawulo bikkirizibwe okugenda mu bitundu by'eggwanga ebyenjawulo byetaayaye byogereko ne bannansi ng'aba NRM bwe bakola ne bano abalala simanya PLU simanya baani kubanga bo babikola ne aba opposition bo bagenda okuba enkuŋŋaana tiyagaasi ab'amagye n'ebirala twakava mu kalulu k'akawempe akalulu akakkirizibwa mu mateeka n'aba NRM bo nga babakoba enkuŋŋaana fe aba opposition candidate nga bamusiba ne bakuba ne bannamawulire kati toyinza kuteekawo mbeera eyo ate n'ogamba mujje tunywemuko kacaayi twogere sooka otereeza ebyo ebigenda mu maaso ebikyamu byonoonye awo booli awo bannayuganda bayinza okugamba kale kati tutuule ku ttebo era mu kutuula ku ttebo eyo twogera ku ki twagala obukulembeze bukyuke mu mirembe n'ebirala bwe bityo n'ekyo nga tekigenda kubeerawo nga tekinnabeerawo toyinza kakati tugenda batuuza mu ruumu ku mpaka muwayemuko tekisoboka abantu ne bwebatuuza mu ruumu ku mpaka ayinza otuula awo n'atabaako nekyayogera oyinza okukwata embuzi n'ogikaka n'ogitwala emugga nti kakati nywa amazzi ojja gituusaayo ku mpaka togenda gyasamya era oginywese ku mpaka tekisoboka so tuleme kwebuzaabuza honorable Nakuti ne banna abakukozesa baleme kutomeza UPDF amendment bill okusookera ddala era nene ya political parties tuze tukyogera lunye nti bannaffe bali mu kumenya amateeka mu ngeri gye baddusaamu etteeka lino amateeka gano kubanga amateeka gagamba nti committees ziprocessinga bills zino mu nnaku 45 naye kati gwe first reading ebaddewo leero olw'eggulo enkeera ku makya amabaluwa ne gatambula saawa 2 gatuuse ku maofiisi nga babagamba saawa 3 mujje mu komiti muwe endowooza zammwe ekyo tekisoboka ate ne bagamba nti endowooza ze muwaayo tezigenda kusukka lunaku lwa leero kiki lwaki bakiddusa nnyo bano abapapa ye abaffe lwaki tebapapa bwe bati bwe bawulira nti amataba gayodde abantu ebuduuda ettaka ligwiridde abantu ne bafa kiteezi nawa juuze ensoke zaayonoona ebintu by'abantu ekalangala abamu ne bafa n'okufa ne kaakano we twogerera buyambi tebunnatuuka lwaki ku nsonga bwe zityo tebapapa tebadduka speed ne batwala obuyambi ne bataasa abantu nga babadduka speed ku tteeka lino ate nga etteeka litukkiriza ennaku eziwerera ddala ekyo kikulaga nti kye bakola kikyamu balina bye bakukusa ensonga eno nagyogerako mu paalamenti era sipiika ne mugamba kino kyokukola kikyamu sipiika n'agamba temufaayo tugenda kubongera obudde naye era yali alimba kubanga wiikendi eno yonna bannaffe bali mu kutegeka report egenda okusomebwa olunaku lw'enkya kati kitegeeza madamu sipiika watulimba era tugenda kujjukiza olunaku lw'enkya ekyokubiri ku tteeka lino z'amagye bo kye bawuliriza si ssemateeka bawuliriza biragiro okuva ewa CDF okuva ewa commander in chief okuva eri high command ebiragiro gye biva mu kifo ky'okufuna ebiragiro era ne batambulira ku biragiro ebiri mu ssemateeka bo ebiragiro walina abalala babifuna kati awo wali obuzibu nti bo tebeesigama nnyo ku ssemateeka beesigama ku bakama baabwe ekyo kiba kikyamu kooti ensukkulumu yagamba nti kooti z'amagye mu kubeerawo kwazo zirina kukwasaganya nsonga ez'omunda ez'amagye nti kaakati ono tayagala kukubira saluti bakama be ono atuuka leeti ku mulimu ono bamudiployinga tayagala ono ayina emputtu bwe bityo ng'ekitongole kyonna ne kampuni ez'enjawulo zibeera ne disciplinary committees naye emisango kye tuyita criminal offences ezo zirina kutwalibwa mu kooti high court eyina mu mateeka kye tuyita unlimited jurisdiction. Kooti ensukkulumu ekyo yagamba ne kati bannaffe ate bagezaako kikyusa. Ekyo kikyamu kimenya amateeka kubanga n'obwenkanya mu kooti z'amagye tebuliiyo. Machete, Kalanzi n'abalala bakabeerayo kati bagenda myaka 5 obujulizi tebuleetebwanga, emisango tegitandikanga ne bakyali eyo mu nkomyo. Kati kikulaga nti kooti z'amagye zino Mwai Museveni azikozesa kutulugunya abo abamuwakanya kye baagala osigala nga bakola. Kyovudula tugamba bannayuganda ndi ffenna ekintu kino tukiwakanye. Nammwe abali mu NRM, kubanga leero oli mu NRM, ekyo ojja kubanyiiza bakutwaleyo. Tumukunde bamutwaleyo eyo, yali wa NRM. Era ne kaakano mpulira agenda kwesimbawo ku NRM. Ni bamutulugunya okumala emyaka n'ebisiibo. Bakale Kayihura n'abalala bangi. Kati mujja kuddamu mulowooze nti olw'okubanga mwe muli ku sayidi ya gavumenti etteeka lino terijja kubakosa. Etteeka ekyamu buli omuli mukosa jasi kiba kyetaaga budde era n'obwo buba bujja kutuuka. Abaasinga okuganyulwa mu nsala ya kooti ensukkulumu incidentally baali bannamagye, kubanga kooti yagamba nti n'abamagye ow'amagye bwazza omusango nti akozesezza emmundu ye natta abantu mutwale mu kooti high court bamuwozesa ogwa mmadda ogw'obutemu. Kooti z'amagye terina busobozi kusala misango egyo. Naye bannamagye batulugunyiziddwa nnyo kooti y'amagye mu kasirise kubanga bo munnange tebalina ddoboozi nga ffe tulina, tebasobola kweyogerako kwerwanako. Bano bannaffe bamachete Bakalanzi naki n'abalala at least tuboogerako. Naye ab'amagye temubamanyi na kubamanya, naye bali eyo batulugunyizibwa. Bw'onyiizaako mukama wo ng'akutwala mu kooti y'amagye tolina bw'ojja kumuloopa nga bakutulugunyiza eyo. Kati baasanyuka nnyo olw'ensala ya kooti y'amagye. Kitegeeza nti ffenna tulina okulwana okulaba nti embeera eno tebeerawo. Twababuulira ku miliyoni 10 era ne mubalaba abamu ne bagamba nti kaakati oyo Ssennyonyi tugenda namutwala mu kooti ne banne batuwaayiriza. Omu yagamba nti ezo just ngambo za mu nkuubo. Naye twebaza Katonda amazima gambala ne gavaayo. Ne gavaayo nekyeyoleka bulungi ababaka aba NRM tuli n'aba opposition abamu bafuna sente zino miliyoni 5 kubeebaza olw'okuyisa etteeka ery'emmuwanyi. Bannayuganda lye baawakanya miliyoni 5 amalala etteeka lino ery'amagye UPDF Amendment Bill bwe lijja liyitewo speed. Ndowooza yo speed gye mulaba etambula speed kubanga abantu baasasulibwa. Kati bagamba waayi baatuwa akasente tulyanguye kye bagezaako okukola. Kati subire bannayuganda ensonga zino baziraba era bazigoberera. Ekisembayo bannayuganda muze mubalaba ku mitimbagano nga bagamba naye bannanga aba opposition lwaki olutula lw'enkya temulwepena mululeke abantu bano batuule bo nga bo bayise etteeka lye baagala okuyisa waakiri nga temuliiyo. Era bannayuganda bano tubawuliriza era ekyo kyesigama bambi ku kunyigirizibwa ku bayiseemu babagamba naye maybe kati kino kye kinaakola. Abamu ne balowooza n'okulowooza nti abaka opposition bwe mutaabeereyo mu parliament tebajja kusobola kuyisa tteeka. Ate ng'ekyo si kituufu kubanga balina ennamba ze bajja okukozesa. Tutuddemu nga joint opposition caucus ne tuteesa ku nsonga eno era tukkaanyiza nti olunaku lw'enkya tubeere mu parliament. Ku lwaki eyo space yaffe tulina okugikozesa. Amaloboozi gaffe kagabe matono gatya gayimuke ku nsonga zino. Bannayuganda bakimanyi nti ennamba ze tulina teziwera ng'aba opposition naye batusuubira obutasirika. Bagamba bannaye mwogere amaloboozi gammwe gaveeyo mugezeeko okulwana newankubadde ennamba zammwe teziwera. Kati kye tugenda okukola tetwagala platform eno nayo bagitugyeko nti akazindaalo kano ke tulina nako bakatugyeko. Era nga bwe tukubira omulanga bannayuganda abali eyo abali ku social media ba bloggers naki temusirika nammwe temusirika. Waliwo abagamba nti kakati gwe obyogeddeko wano nga blogger waliwo ekikyuse tewali kikyuse musirike. Nedda temusirika, buli omu akozesa akazindaalo kaalina. Ne bw'obanga ku X olina abagoberezi 50 teekayo message waakiri aba 5 balabe message yo. Bw'obanga oli blogger naki tosirika, kozesa platform eyo waleme kubeerawo omuntu yenna akuggyako kazindaalo ako. Kakati n'ababaka ba parliament akazindaalo ke tulina mu parliament tukakozese amaloboozi gaveeyo nga twogera ku nsonga zino nti kijja natuyamba enkya bwe tunaagamba nti kakati tugenda mu kooti ku nsonga zino kubanga bamenye buli tteeka ate nga kooti yali esazeewo, ogenda otya mu kooti ng'ate tewabaddeyo? Kooti ejja kubuuza naye kwaze wano okuloopa, byoza okuloopako nga tewaliiyo, otandikirawa? So yes, bannayuganda tubawuliriza ensonga n'okwemulugunya kwe balina, naye tugamba nga bwe tugamba buli alina akazindaala eyo kakozesa ku social media wa tokasuula sigala ng'okakozesa, n'ababaka bano twagala bakozesa akazindaala ako okwogera. Kyovudulaba abantu bagenda ne banyiiga nga ababaka abamu basirika, mpaka n'asirika wiiki emu, omwezi, omwaka nga tayogera. Yes, bakimanyi nti by'anaayogera by'anaateesa oba oli awo biyinza obutayita, naye bakusuubira okwogera. Kakati tugenda kukozesa obuzindaala obwo bwe tulina ng'ababaka, twogere ku nsonga zino, tukole ekisoboka kyonna, newankubadde ennamba ntono naye eddoboozi ery'omwanguka liveeyo ku nsonga zino. Mwebale nnyo.
Asante.
Okay, we are going to have the leader of opposition respond to our questions. Kindly be quiet and order, members. Order.
Let me begin with Lucy's question. How prepared are we for the beatings that are awaiting us tomorrow? Tugenda kwesabika. Seriously though, our house is a house of record, and that's why we always get disappointed whenever the speaker pretends that she doesn't know who has invaded the house to chase away journalists and to beat up members and so on and so forth. Because when we put it to her the other time, she said, even me, I don't know. I said, really? That's pretentious, of course. It's a house of debate, and so we are not going there to use manpower. We are going there tomorrow to use brain power. That's what we are going for, and that's why there's a dress code which is prescribed. We come clad in suits. If they wanted us to come to fight, they would tell us in advance, wear track suits or trainers or whatever. So we are coming to deliberate. It's just that, of course, when we overpower them with brain power, they choose to use manpower and violence because that's what they have. But we are coming to push through our views and thoughts based on the law. Isaac said, elaborate further on the 100 million shillings. I don't know what further elaboration, because we have stated all there is regarding this matter. That this was a bribe to members of parliament. It was wrong. And that's why it was given to them in the middle of the night, not through the channels through which members of parliament always receive money. You remember, even previously, during Toji Kwatako, 29 million shillings was given to members, apparently to go and consult their voters. The opposition at the time and its leadership sat and said this is wrong money, even though, by the way, it was channeled through their accounts. They went and withdrew it and they handed it back to parliament. But this time round, no, it was not even channeled through our accounts. Members were going stealthily in the middle of the night, wearing hoodies, some entering here parliament, others entering homes, stealthily receiving this money. That was the problem with it. And since then, some have come out to admit. I wrote to the Inspector General of Government over this matter, asking her to investigate because there's overwhelming evidence, including some members who have acknowledged that for them they received the money. The IGG has not gotten back to me. I'm going to remind her, just in case she's forgetful, or that she became too busy and did not attend to that matter that I wrote to her about. Because she, in the past, she would have the courtesy to write back. For example, when I wrote to her about the corruption here at Parliament, she wrote back to me saying, the Auditor General is still investigating, let me wait for him to finish, then I'll come in. I knew she was telling a lie, but at least she wrote back. In this case, she has not even written back. But I will remind her. I still have paper and ink. I will write again, reminding her over this matter. Kajubi, what hope is left to stop these amendments? The people of Uganda.
True.
That's where the hope lies. That all of us get to come together and we push back against this bad governance. It's not just, by the way, a question of the amendments. The amendments are symbolic of the bad governance. You have a brutal regime that's been around for 40 years now. it wants to keep itself in power. That means oppressing those who challenge it. And so the military courts is one of the tools that they are using to oppress those who challenge this regime. So we have got to push back against that together, that everybody gets to play their part. That's why as MPs we have said we shall be in the House and play our part there. What's our strategy tomorrow? Where do you want to know our strategy? We have told you what we have told you, that we are going to be present tomorrow. Yeah, that's what is important. The rest, you be present. Hopefully you will not be chased away like last time. But what's important is that as members of parliament, we are going to show up for plenary tomorrow. Resolution of political parties bill, has NCF made sense? What we are saying, which even a child can see, you cannot force negotiations. You cannot beat people up, persecute them, lock up supporters and so on, and then you come and say, you sit here by force, we drink tea together. It cannot happen. Lubega asked, the Supreme Court said, you were saying that the Supreme Court did not say that civilians cannot be tried by military courts. I hope you read the ruling. The ruling was unequivocally clear. Civilians, the military courts don't have jurisdiction to try, not just civilians, by the way. It said even military persons, if they have committed an offense that is triable by the High Court, the military courts don't have jurisdiction to try those offenses, whether it is a civilian or a soldier. The exceptional circumstances which people are trying to clutch onto is if there is an offense that is not provided for in our Penal Code, our Penal Code Act. An offense that was not envisaged. But that's not the case, because all the offenses which the military court has been trying are triable by the High Court because they are provided for. So that should not be an excuse. Also, we actually think that in its decision, the Supreme Court should also have quashed past decisions of the military courts. Because the Supreme Court said that for all the cases that were determined, those ones, we have no problem, they can remain, and people serve their sentences. For the ongoing ones, transfer the files to civilian courts. And we think that's also problematic. That's why the Uganda Law Society has, by the way, filed a matter at the East African Court of Justice. Because if you're saying that the military courts are unconstitutional, then you should have quashed also the decisions that they have taken in the past, because you're saying it's unconstitutional. So meaning, whatever decisions they took, they were illegal. We think that the Supreme Court should have gone to that extent as well. That did not happen though. Did an opposition MPs attending committee to do the report writing? Yes, opposition MPs are members of these committees. And we encouraged them, one, to be present to observe what is happening. But also, because we would like to challenge the outcome of all of this, they've got to write a minority report. You cannot write a minority report when you have been absent from the committee proceedings and all of that. Your minority report will be challenged. So they are present as members and they are pushing back and so on, and then eventually produce a minority report. It is similar to us being present in the House, because you cannot challenge a process which you have not been part of, and that's why we are saying tomorrow we shall be in the House, so that we can be able to challenge whatever happens. Some members complain, that was this our friend, that I don't give them time to speak. Incidentally, even me, a number of times when I want to push something through, the presiding officer denies me chance. Other times when I'm hitting certain points very hard, you see how she keeps interrupting, so that my point disappears. But because I am smart, I still insist on my point, even when the presiding officer is trying to interfere. Because if I'm raising a procedural matter, you're the one going to rule, and I've told her before, you're the one going to rule. You wait, I finish my point. But along the way, because you're hitting certain points, they'll want to try and interject and so on, and then I also don't allow to be derailed. I come back to my point. So the LOP is not the one that gives permission to speak. Because even myself, a few times you've seen me stand up and the presiding officer objects. So I don't know what rules you're reading, you man. Even the opposition parties, okay, if the concern is that I speak in the House, we are in that House to speak, and I encourage members, please speak, fight for your space. All of us. And you have seen a number of MPs who will fight to speak. That's why people voted for us. So if there's anyone saying, but you MP, you overstand up, you keep standing up. That's why your people sent you to stand up and speak. If you denied chance, okay, but keep shouting, point of order, point of procedure, keep speaking. And also in the committees, by the way, because parliament work is not just in plenary, but in committees. That's why we normally encourage members, be present in committees, put up a fight, speak, begin there. Then afterwards you come to plenary. No one should deny you your space to be able to speak. You asked an interesting one about pictures. So tomorrow you're going to come and say, now, why are you using this table as opposed to another one? I did see that, and I was told by, because you see the law really, my role doesn't extend in now determining now the design. Tomorrow I might come and I find they've changed color from cream to white and so on. Some of those things are too small for my attention. I want to focus on the big things. So when I saw that too, I was told, no, all the past leaders of opposition, they found it fitting, as opposed to crowding the wall, to put them in one picture, and also to create space for past chief opposition whips, because those ones were not provided for, because of the crowding and so on. And yet they are leaders. You know, the leader of opposition is present. There's also the chief opposition whip. And so even past chief opposition whips, it was found important by our technical persons that they are also recognized, because now the walls were full. So they decided to frame two, one with past leaders of opposition and another with past chief opposition whips. And I think it made sense, so I didn't want to interfere with that, because I want to deal with the big things. And now you want shadow cabinets also. I don't think we have enough space for all the past shadow cabinets. Maybe, I don't know. They will deal with that, but those are small issues, eh? No, I am speaking as somebody who is a member of the shadow cabinet. You, it is none of your business. So how can you say that they are not small? Yet me, who is a member, I'm saying they are small. Because you don't have jurisdiction. Anyway, but at least we've responded to that. Even under opposition parties, yes, you saw invitation letters. Invitation letters were written, but then they were delivered on the same day that these stakeholders were being invited, which is wrong. My party, for example, received its invitation on Friday morning at 8 a.m. and they were being called to come at 9 a.m. that same day. How does that make sense? Uganda Law Society received their invitation at 11:50, asking them to show up at midday in 10 minutes time. How does that make sense? So actually my party, because I can speak with authority on that, wrote to the committee saying this is very short notice, it is not possible at all. So my party requested for Monday today. Today is Monday. They are finishing to write the report. So they didn't actually get back to us as a political party to whether to say yes or no or whatever. Yeah, because we said we cannot show up on very short notice. And yet the committee doesn't, you know, if it was sitting over the weekend and inviting stakeholders, maybe. So that's why we requested for Monday morning, but they didn't get back to us. And then on Saturday, the committee was meeting to write the report. So you see the illegality around that, and yet you're pretending to be consulting people. Okay, very briefly mu Luganda. Twazogeddeko era lwaki twalemerako nti zaali nkyamu engeri gye zaali zigabibwamu nti ne bwe zaaliise ku akawunti zaffe ng'ababaka era ziba nkyamu naye ku luno abantu bayambalanga bihudi ne bayingira wano palamenti mutumbi mu kiro abalala maka g'abantu okukima ssente zino era abamu baavaayo ne bakkiriza kyovutula nawandiikira IGG nga mugamba anoonyereze ku nsonga eno ebbaluwa yange tannagiddamu naye nja kumujjukiza nti nnyebo nakuwandiikira ebbaluwa okunoonyereza ku nsonga eno ababaka abamu bakkiriza n'okukkiriza nti sente zino baazifuna noonyereza sente zino zaavaawa zaali zaaki ababaka abakkiriza weebali bayite bongere okuwa ku bwino ku nsonga zino. Kajubi kyekiyinza okukolebwa okulemesa ennongoosereza zino bannayuganda ffenna kubanga kino ekizibu tekiri just kunongoosereza kiri kufuga bbi kyovuddoola obeera ne fuga bbi ebintu ebimu kati bikolebwa nga bino ennongoosereza zino naki so ffenna tulina kwerwanako nga bannayuganda ffenna kitukwatako nammwe aba NRM kubanga etteeka ekyamu nga lino nammwe lisobola okubakosa. Lubega Supreme Court yakyogera lunye nti emisango gino gyonna egiri mu Penal Code Act n'amateeka amalala egyo gitwalibwe mu kooti eza bulijjo High Court. Exceptional circumstances nti oba ekigwa kitalaze oba obumenyi bw'amateeka emisango egimu egitali mu mateeka egyo gisobola okwogerebwako naye gyegiriwa kubanga emisango gyonna egibadde giwozesebwa kooti z'amagye gyonna giwozesebwa kooti za bulijjo. Omusirikale bw'akwata emmundu ye n'agikozesa okutta abantu ebeera madda mu High Court. So ensonga eyo eri very clear. Era ffe twalowooza nti kooti ensukkulumu eno mu kusalawo nti kooti y'amagye eriwo mu bukyamu n'ebyekola bimenya amateeka biri unconstitutional. Ate kooti ensukkulumu yagamba nti kale naye bye mwasalawo byonna kati bye tubivuddeko naye emisango egigenda mu maaso kaakano egyo twagala gikomezesebwe muzitwale mu kooti za bulijjo. Ffe twalirowoozeza nti kooti ensukkulumu yaligambye nti nebiri bye mwasalawo emyaka egyayita nabwe byali bikyamu kubanga omaze okugamba nti kooti zino ziriwo mu bukyamu ziri unconstitutional. Kati kitegeeza nebiri ebyasalibwawo abantu abali eyo abasaavinga simanya baba wa myaka emeka myaka 2 myaka 10 ebyo nabyo bisazibwemu waakiri kooti za bulijjo ziddemu ziwozesa abantu abo. Twali tusuubidde nti kooti ensukkulumu ekyo nakyo ejja kisalawo naye teyakikola. Kyodoola ba Uganda Law Society eri mu petitioninga East African Court of Justice ku nsonga eno yennyini. Didan ababaka baffe ab'opposition okubeera mu committee, yes ababaka baffe ab'opposition bammemba ba committee eno era nga balina okubeerayo okulaba biki ebitambula ki ekisaliddwawo nabo okusobola okuwandiika minority report. Toyinza kuwandiika minority report wabadde toliiyo oba olina okubeerayo n'olaba nti kaakati kino kisaliddwawo n'obagamba bannaye kino tekiveeko bwe balemerako ogamba kale kino ekyo mpaka kinootinga n'okiteeka mu minority report. Bw'oba toliiyo toyinza kuwandiika minority report. In fact kifaanagana ne kyetwogeddeko nti ng'ababaka tugenda kubeera mu house kubanga bwe tuba tetuliiyo enkya tetulina kye tuyinza ku challenginga bwe tuba tubadde tetuliiyo. Ibanda yes political parties ez'enjawulo zaayitibwa akakiiko. Ekyo kituufu naye zaayitibwa mu budde ki? Kubanga omuntu oyinza mutwalira bbaluwa ssaawa 2 ng'omugamba jangu ssaawa 3 mu ssaawa emu yokka ojjowa ebirowoozo byo biki ebyo? Obanga agamba nti abantu bakedde bali awo tebalina byakukola balinza ani agenda okubayita ku nsonga yonna. Komiti ky'ovuddoola beeweebwa ennaku 45. Kati Uganda Law Society bwe ebbaluwa yaabwe yabatuukako ssaawa 5 n'eddakiika 50 nga bagamba mujje mu komiti ssaawa 6 nga bulayo eddakiika 10. Ekyo kiba kikyamu. Lwaki oba opapiriza bw'otyo? Ffe ng'ekibiina kyenjogerere kya NUP twawandiikira akakiiko etubagamba nti nedda invitation yammwe eze short notice. Akakiiko tekatula ku weekend mutukirize tujje ku Monday olwaleero nga twetegese bulungi. Tebaatuyita tetwalaba ku Saturday nga babaka babatwala ku hoteeri okuwandiika report. Kati ekikulaga nti stakeholders baggaliddwa ebweru ate ng'ekyo kimenya amateeka. Byebyo bannange mwebale nnyo mwebale ddala.
Okay. Tweyanziza Lope Joro Ssenyonyi Bisekezi ensonga azogedde. Tugenda kufaafagana ku lwanca ekijja kijje tuliwedde okubwa tuliwedde okutya tuliwedde okumenywa tuliwedde okulebako buli kikolebwa kyonna naye nga tulina okubeera osinabba mwaganya kukola bintu nga bayikwasa bagambe twazira tulina kuzira tulina kubeerawo ensonga ne tuzikwasaganya